Jenny Mosher, and today I'm talking with Steve Knox, author of self-development and leadership content. Join me as we learn about Steve's leadership work, his writing practices, and where he gets his ideas from. Hi, Steve. How are you? All the way from Houston.
I'm doing well, Jenny. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for making the time to come on. Now, it's late afternoon in Houston.
It is.
Yep, on a Tuesday. It's 8 a.m. here in Australia.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, how are you finding it being back and dealing with the time difference again, or being back? Is most of your work in America, in the States?
It's split across the world, really. We kind of live in 5 time zones here, and then I live in about 5 others globally. So it's always fun to manage the schedule.
Fair enough. You're used to it then. Now, as a bit of background, you're a leadership coach. How is that different to a business coach?
I really differentiate around 2 things. One would be, yes, businesses hire me, but they hire me to work with individuals. And, I think the basic premise, Jenny, is that everyone is a leader. I think a lot of people may not buy into that, but the question isn't whether you're a leader or not, it's what kind of leader are you? And so I really specialize in helping people understand how they can have impact and influence wherever they might find themselves in whatever vocation, calling, career.
Right. So you don't necessarily just work with managers, you also work with teams?
Work with teams, work with businesses, startups mainly for the most part. Then getting into the scale up business when companies are ready to kind of transition and bring in next level hires. I come alongside and help interview and make sure they're a good fit. But also, retaining talent. A big part of it is professional development, and everyone wants to know, what's in it for me, and is there a ceiling or is there a career path? And I help unlock that for the companies that hire me.
Right. So you've got a master's in entrepreneurial leadership. Prior to that, was there psychology or HR study? Was there something?
Yeah. So my background is in nonprofit and world education and project management in particular. The last, I guess, official employer was the University of Sydney. I was an executive manager across 13 business units there, and it was a lot of fun. But quickly, my side hustle turned into my main gig, which is coaching, and so it took off there in Sydney.
Yeah. Why do you think your side hustle took off when other people's side hustles don't? Any ideas? You don't have to share any corporate secrets.
Yeah, no. There's no corporate secrets. Honestly, Jenny, I reckon 8 years of dedicated effort, weekends, holidays, stealing time, doing whatever I could. I really turned it into more than just a side hustle. So I think effort, relationships, a little bit of luck and timing, but mostly relationships. I met the right people and they opened doors for me, and I'm a big believer in that. You can be the best thing, and if no one knows about you, you don't have the right connections, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's a mix of everything, isn't it? In a lot of ways.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Now we've helped you release 3 books: Confidence, The Asymmetrical Leader, and Smooth Running Wit. Which I just love that the title alone speaks to me. I think of Phoebe Buffay running through Central Park with her legs and her arms flying everywhere. Is there a common link with those 3 books in that you're trying to help people develop what's different about them and be the best that they can be, rather than trying to fit what they think society is telling them to be? Or am I overthinking it?
There's like 2 questions there, so I'll answer the first one. Yes, there's a common link. There is you're really good to ask that question, because there is a framework in my mind. So heart, soul, mind, and strength was kind of the premise behind the books. And so the Asymmetrical Leader was really about the heart of leadership and what it means to be a leader. It answers 5 kind of key questions that we all struggle with or have, and go check out the book to figure out what those 5 questions are. Then Confidence was really about the mind. And so looking at the mental belief, the abundance mindset, and the fact that it's a skill. There's probably 90% of people out there that feel like a fraud. Number one thing my clients come to me with is like, I'd like to be more confident when it comes to, and then they fill in the blank. When really the word confidence in the Latin means to trust within. And I think it's that ability to back ourselves no matter what's gone down. And that book addresses that. And then the last book you mentioned, and you love the title, Smooth Running Weird, it's actually a phrase that my father-in-law uses. It's a Texas colloquialism that I picked up from him. And it's a collection of 66 daily readings from my weekly newsletter. So I found the most popular ones and we put them in a book, and it's out there to help you. And really that is about strength, finding daily strength. So I'm currently working on the soul book. And hopefully we'll work with you on that in the next couple of years. But I'm doing some research and what is the soul of work? And I'm really driven by that question for this fourth in this series. And then I've got some other books I want to write, but that's kind of the framework.
Not enough hours in a day, not enough days in a year sometimes.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned your newsletter. One thing I've noticed about you over the last few years, I haven't noticed any social media profiles. You may have some, I don't know, but I haven't, not that I've been stalking, but I haven't noticed any. How do you do your marketing? If you don't use social media as a marketing tool, how do you do your marketing?
Sure. I'm a big believer in attraction over promotion. And what I found is that if I can write for a specific audience on some key themes, then the word will get out. And so the books have been my marketing, which has been great working with you. And IndieMosh is that when people buy a book, I usually give them 2, and I want them to give 1 away. And so it's viral in that sense. I had social media, but I found that it was a distraction from doing meaningful work rather than a magnifier or a multiplier of the work I was doing. And I was one voice amongst gazillions. So I've chosen to aim small, miss small, and really go after the heart of the people that are already following me. And it's worked, I think our click rate on the newsletter is probably around 40% open rate, which is pretty good for a newsletter if you know anything about those stats. So
and you release pretty much daily your newsletter?
I was doing daily up until the pandemic, and felt like it was overkill, and really kind of reassessed. Again, this whole idea of less is more. So I've gone to a weekly format, which has been pretty sustainable for me, but also I think helpful for my readership and tribe, if you will.
Yeah. And I think too, as a creative, and you must be creative, you can't do also what you're doing the other side. You also need a break from what you're doing so that you can reboot, reassess and freshen up. Otherwise you reach a point where you're just doing the same old, and it loses a bit of oomph, doesn't it?
It does lose oomph. So one of the things I teach and one of the things I practice is that we have to retreat to advance. And so a mentor told me a very long time ago to miss out monthly, withdraw weekly, and divert daily. And those are good rhythms.
Sorry. Miss out monthly.
Miss out monthly, like check out, don't let anybody know where you're going, and just reset. Withdraw weekly, make sure you have a Sabbath. A day that's just for you to reconnect. For me, that's being outside. Sometimes it's golf. Sometimes it's walking. I just have to be in nature. And then daily, I meditate and journal. So those are things that recharge and refocus me. And usually first thing in the morning is when my subconscious is most in contact with my conscious mind. And so I'm the most creative. I find ideas and whatnot. Actually, a pretty famous author, investor, entrepreneur, James Altucher, has this thing where he's a big believer in writing down 10 ideas every day. And I've been doing that for almost a decade now. And it's where I get most of my content. In my journals, I write down 10 ideas. I might think about a client. I might think about an issue. I might think about current events, whatever it might be. And I'll write down my 10 thoughts on that.
So 10 thoughts a day, that's 3,650 a year. It's 36,500 thoughts over a decade.
Yeah. So
wow. What do you do with those, like, are they physically in notebooks or are they on scraps of
They
paper?
are. They
They're in
are.
do you keep
I'm a big. Go ahead. Sorry.
do you keep the notebooks?
I do. I'm a moleskin, old school pen to paper guy, and
Wow.
every day I write five kind of key areas. I do a litmus of how I'm doing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I write down my to-do list for the day. I write down three things I'm grateful for,
Hmm.
specifically a conversation I had, some small blessing in my life, and something I learned. And
Hmm.
then I do the 10 ideas.
Right, right. The
Hmm.
10 ideas, are they business ideas, life ideas, or just 10, are they 10 ideas of things you could do, or just 10
They might be
ideas of
something
it?
I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be something for the newsletter. They might be things I need to say to a client. They
Hmm.
might be, how to manage the whole Afghanistan debacle,
Yeah.
and what does that mean to me,
Yeah.
and what would it look like to be stranded. I mean, there's all kinds of things depending on
Yeah.
what's happening around me.
Yeah. So they could be 10 mixed ideas. It's not 10 ideas on one topic. It can be two of this and one of that and seven of
Usually
something
it's 10
else.
on
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah. Okay. Is that
So
by choice or because that's just how it happens?
I have ADHD, and so it
Right.
helps me focus.
Okay.
And I find that if I can drill down past five, I
Yeah.
really have to focus, and so
Yeah.
it helps center me to a certain way. So it's just
Right.
a self leadership practice.
Yeah. So how long do you spend of a morning journaling? Oh, so is this journaling or is journaling something different?
Now this is part of the journaling process.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you're a purist when it comes to books, but I dog ear and write notes in there, and sometimes I'll take that and put it in, and then write about a quote that meant something to me, and free write. It just depends on how I'm feeling. So
Yeah.
I'm not religious about it. I don't do it every day, but
Right.
most days I've got 2 or 3 pages in my moleskin in the
Right.
morning.
Wow. I can't imagine doing that. I think a lot. I tend to wake up at 3 a.m. and I'll have the solution to a problem at 3 a.m. That's that's
Sure.
that's my thing. When I'm asleep, I suddenly wake up and a solution will come to me. And
Mm.
I've read a lot about people like yourself who journal and um, understand the value of it. I just haven't been able to bring myself to try it. Maybe I'm frightened of having to do it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I've resisted the temptation to even try it.
Mm.
It's an interesting
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's definitely a discipline. It's a learned behavior. It's not something that comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that has really helped me
Hmm.
when it comes to being disciplined. There's a assessment out there that Gallup owns called the Clifton Strengths Finder, and they rank 34 themes or pools of talent, and discipline's in my like bottom. And so I need these tools and skills,
Hmm.
to create habits that make me productive and focused. And started doing it again almost a decade ago. And it's interesting. That's when my side hustle became my main gig as well. So there's something there. I haven't sat down to reflect on it, but there is a I don't think it's a coincidence. I think these things, the more discipline I have
Yeah.
within, the better off I am at helping others live a
Yeah.
disciplined life.
Yeah.
So I would challenge you to do it.
You'd win.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. I would just challenge you. I would encourage you to, if literally a habit is formed over 66 days. We know this from research at the University of London.
Yeah.
I double that. If you can stick with something for 4 months,
Yeah.
it will become a daily thing for you. And so it's about rewiring the brain.
Yeah.
Um, and also even the narrative you have around it where you like, I can't, you won't then.
That's probably true. I think part of it is I'm frightened of adding to my plate at the moment. I sort of
Hmm,
feel like I've got enough on my plate, so I don't want to create another thing that I
sure.
might I might not live up to, and then I'll feel
Mhm.
bad because I'm not living up to that. So it's easier just to not do it, which could be why a lot of people don't start diets and they don't start exercise and things like that. I wonder if
Mm.
that's
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's two things probably. If I hear you correctly, one is you're pretty competitive and you don't like losing, so you don't want to
that's
start something you
true.
can't finish.
Yeah, I'm a great winner, but I'm a shocking loser.
There you go. So we don't play games we can't win. And then
Exactly.
two, I resemble that. And then secondly, I think, even just that fear of failure.
Yeah,
If I hear you've got a lot on and commitments, the last thing you want to do is detract from your rhythm and routine.
yeah,
So if it's working for you, work it. And if it
yeah,
doesn't, you don't think it would add any value, don't.
yeah,
But you
yeah.
might be surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I look. The idea is there. It's just, yeah, giving it a go. Look, I might do it one day. Who knows? Who knows? I might give it a go. I think there's actually a part of me that's actually frightened of committing my inner thoughts to paper. I don't know why. I mean, I can't.
Mm,
I mean, it's not like a diary, is it? It's
yeah.
different to a diary.
Well, yeah, I think it's more constructive,
Mm,
and less free thought. I mean, there is a free thought part of it and component, but I
mm.
also think it's good that no one can read my handwriting, not even my wife, so it doesn't matter.
So there are secrets after all.
Yes, there are.
How long do you spend each morning with that writing
It,
process?
it varies anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on
Oh,
what
okay,
we've got going on. Yeah, so it's
right,
not exhaustive.
right, fair
So.
enough. All right. Um, so you do have days when you don't write, and
Mhm.
I suppose you have days when you're traveling. Are you able to travel at the moment? Can you
We
travel?
are.
You are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been on two international trips since all this has gone down. I
Mm-hmm.
was an early adopter when it came to getting vaxxed,
Yeah,
and was fortunate enough to get Moderna,
yeah.
and have been to as far away as Africa for work. And
Wow.
domestically, we've still traveled even during this whole pandemic. So things are
Yeah,
picking up here in the States. I know that's not the
yeah,
case where you are, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm able to travel, and in fact, will travel the most of the rest of this year.
That's good. So even with modern technology, it's still you still find a reason to be present in person with the companies you're helping and the people you're helping.
Sure. The thing that shifted is I think people are more open and have adopted Zoom and platforms like Zoom. I was
Yeah.
using Zoom probably before most people. I was a beta user, and they were a client at one time, which was kind of
Wow.
fun. And the online platform is strengthened when I show up in person. I think people still need to break bread with you. They want to see
Yeah.
you, and it means a lot if you show up.
Yeah.
I think that they feed off of that. My clients do, and that energy. And you just can't. I don't think replace that in person contact,
Mm.
and do the level of work and the depth of work that I hope to do with any client
Yeah.
or team. So.
I think I get what you're saying there. I found sort of over the last 18 months, we've been reliant on technology to keep in touch with people, but I've
Mhm.
actually found I've withdrawn from the social media. I'm struggling to use it. I don't want to use it.
Mm,
But if I see people, I'm much more engaged with the face to face now.
mm,
I've sort of had a reversal. While I'm happy to use this sort of technology to do this sort of thing,
sure.
um, on a connecting level, yeah, I'm actually happier in person too. So I get what you're saying. It's interesting.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
a gift of the pandemic, that we've gotten back to what matters most, and it's
Yes.
simplified our lives. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of people have kind of trimmed the fat, so to speak,
Yeah.
and what's not essential. And then it just magnifies when we actually do get to hug someone, shake someone's hand, fist bump, whatever it might be, or you actually see a smile
Yeah.
instead of a
Yeah.
mask. So it's a good
Yeah.
thing, a really good thing.
Your imprint test, your
Hmm.
personality test, did you devise that?
I did. It's
Yeah.
based on Jungian research, which all of the personality assessments out there are based
Mm-hmm.
on. So extroversion, introversion, how we take in information, how we recharge,
Mm-hmm.
and how we make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I'm obsessive. So I wanted to figure out something better than a 100 question questionnaire to kind of simplify things. So I boiled it down to two questions, and it's pretty spot on as far as
Yeah.
temperament goes. And so those two questions unlock, I think, 40 different data points around four different temperaments or leadership styles. So,
Right. Yeah. I did it just very recently.
oh, cool.
I've been curious about it for a while, and I've been thinking, oh,
Yeah,
will I, won't I, will I? And then anyway, I did it quite recently, knowing the
yeah,
interview was coming up. I thought, oh, just do it, Jen, do it.
yeah, yeah.
And
How'd you find it?
I've sort of a bit scary, like looking in a mirror. It was like, how did you know this about me? How did you know this
Yeah,
about me when I didn't know this about me?
sure.
Um, so yeah, looking at the list, I could relate to it, and I thought, yeah, I get that, I get that.
Mm,
So, and I suppose if it helps you understand yourself,
mm,
um, it reminded me of the Myers
hmm.
Briggs test, a bit like that, but
Yeah, yeah,
less broken up.
yeah.
Was probably easier
Mm, yeah,
to,
yeah, and that was the point. It's been interesting having taken this across the planet now. Yeah, there's a sense of the Asian community, and I don't want to put everybody in the same bucket, but they seem to love it because of the simplicity,
yeah,
as well as and the usefulness. It's practical. And
yeah,
then in Africa, it's gone really, really well from a team building
yeah,
perspective, giving language to individuals and articulating what kind of leader they are. It's kind of coming full circle in the conversation, and
yeah.
and really around those four temperaments. I call them drivers, doers, developers, designers. I'd be
Yeah.
curious how you test it out. I don't know if you want that public or not. I'm a designer. So it's all about the possibilities of the process for me as a
Right.
creative. And
Yeah.
my wife's a doer, so she's my opposite. So it even helps navigate, relationships and understanding, appreciating where
Yeah.
people are coming from, which is why I created it.
Right. Right. I'm a driver, apparently.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, yeah. So, what did you say your wife
Beautiful.
is?
She's a doer.
A doer.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yes. So
Yeah.
she's details of people,
Uh-huh.
and I'm possibilities of process. So those are the four kind of categories how you answer it. Details are possibilities, people
Yeah.
are process, and the combination of that then gives you the
Yeah.
temperament.
Yeah.
So
And what you say is right. That's one thing I have learned. You can't just have a business where everybody's the same personality type. You've got to have
no,
that mix. Otherwise, it will
correct,
tank. Um,
correct.
and I
Unless you're
suppose
Exxon.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I suppose if you're all the same personality type, you'd end up just like the fish in the gold tank that eat each other, wouldn't you? I mean,
Mm,
you
yeah.
wouldn't get anywhere. So
There's a beauty to diversity, and I'm a big believer in it. I think it makes everything better.
yeah,
So,
yeah, take the best of everything and then work with that.
mm,
Yeah, yeah, good thing for a lot of our communities to remember. Um, and speaking of communities, you're in Houston now. Um,
yes.
you were in Australia for how long?
We were in Australia almost 9 years, the
Right.
Northern Beaches.
Yeah,
Yeah, just outside of Sydney, and
Sydney. Yeah,
and it's very close to my heart.
yeah,
Still have great friends there and handful of clients.
yeah.
So a smattering, if you will, and really a great season. I mean, I think Meg and I, it's the furthest we could get from our English speaking anyway, from our
Yeah.
home, and um, really appreciated the culture there. There's a lot of differences, I think,
Yeah.
between Australia and the U.S. And I think that perspective in time really benefited us in our relationship, but also my business.
Yeah,
It's good to live outside of your home. Travel's
it
good for
is.
us.
Yeah.
So,
Look, travel's good for everybody. I took my husband to England in 1984,
mm,
and he said he was stunned. He'd been to Southeast Asia, and he'd had no interest in going to England. He said, why would I
mm,
bother? I don't know anybody there, yada, yada. Anyway, I took him, and we spent 4 months, England, Europe. And he came back, he said, I had no idea that you could go to another English speaking country, but the culture could be so different.
mm,
Um, and he really enjoyed that, and that's one thing. And the same going to America. We've been to America twice. Haven't got as far east as Texas yet. One
you
day,
got to come. Yeah.
got to come. We've made
Yeah.
it about as far east as Bisbee, Arizona, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll get back one day. But yeah, it is great experiencing those different cultures, even if
Mm,
they do. We might use the same words for things, but in essence, a lot of the time we still don't speak the same language. It's yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
I was Steve-O in in Oz, and my family calls me Steven. My wife calls me Stevie, and I was Steve-O or Knox. My
Knox.
last name was pretty popular there, so
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, Steve-O, yeah, it's yeah, most that's it. If you can live with Steve-O, you've been accepted. Good
Mm,
on you. Good on
mm.
you. Um, so Houston, so are you a swimmer? Can you swim?
I can. I was a lifeguard growing up. My wife was too.
Yep.
We loved, which is why we chose the northern beaches as well. She's a surfer, longboarder,
Yeah.
and it was big time for us to be able to live in that spot
Well, yeah.
where we lived. And so, but here, we are probably 30 minutes from the Gulf Coast, which is not quite, um, you know,
Not
Bondi
quite
or
all. Yeah.
Manly or
Yeah.
Freshy, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a different kind of beach. But we appreciate it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. You tend to, I suppose, Australians, unless you've been there, I tend to think of Texas as being a dry country. I have to, being a dry state, of being,
Yeah.
and I have to remember it has a coastline. You
Yeah,
get
we're on the Gulf
hurricanes, don't
Coast.
you? Yeah,
We
yeah.
do big time.
So, what's next for you?
So I think we're in a pretty interesting season, working with a handful of clients that are in a process of either transitioning or scaling, and that's a lot of fun for us.
Yeah,
And I really get to kind of grow with these clients, and that's been fun.
yeah.
Outside of my corporate clients, I work with anywhere from 10 to 20 individuals at any given time, and that keeps it a variety of different situations, people either transitioning careers or wanting to improve a skill or work on themselves. And so the plate is full on top of writing.
I was just going to say, is that not exhausting having like those larger corporate clients and 20 to 30 individuals? Do you set yourself a work week? Are you like Monday to Friday for clients, and do you set yourself
Yeah,
regular hours, boundaries?
I do. So I basically work 5 days, but it's
Hmm.
split up. So each day has a different focus.
Yeah.
Mainly coaching happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any workshops Thursday. And if I'm going to visit a corporate client, it'll be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Right.
With Australian clients, sometimes I might sneak a Sunday call in because it's Monday morning.
Oh,
And
right.
with
Yeah.
folks that live, in different parts of the world, I have some folks in the UK I talk to on Saturday and so forth. So it
Yeah.
just depends on where clients are.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you try to limit yourself to X number of hours a week? Do you have like a mental
I
health
do.
limit? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. I do. So I use an app called Calendly that interfaces with my Google Calendar, and people can book in three kind of bite-sized 20, 40, or 80-minute sessions,
Hmm.
depending on what our agreement is and how that works. And so it varies, but that is the best way I can chunk my time and stay productive.
Yeah.
So, and of
Yeah.
course, I have time in the day for writing, time in the day for replying to emails, and creating any kind of content that I
Mm.
might need for a workshop. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you
mm,
can't you can't just be giving of yourself 40 hours a week. Like,
no,
it's exhausting. And then,
yeah,
as you say, you've got the admin on top of the answering emails.
yeah,
Even that alone can take several hours a week.
mm,
I think. Are you seeing a new trend in the last couple of years for entrepreneurs and business people to not work 80 hours a week, to acknowledge that it's okay to do, a 35, 40 hour week or whatever, that there's
mm.
no shame in having downtime?
Yeah. I think the two principles behind that are if you can automate it or delegate it, you're doing well. And those
Yeah.
are two things that I try and help my clients with is what can I automate? What can I delegate?
Mm.
And there's so much wastage in a day. I mean, all the research that's out there, even if you're working 8, 10 hours a day, you're really only working half that, where you're
Yeah.
you're doing work. And
Yeah.
so there's a great book called Deep Work, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it talks
Hmm.
about the difference between deep and shallow work and scheduling that. And some of the principles in that have helped me look at what's life giving, what's not, and making sure I'm doing something of both as I work. So.
Right. Right. So, you play a bit of golf?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah. It's one of those sports that you can do the rest of your life. I found, and so I played sport growing up and injured a knee and picked up golf as a result in my 20s. I didn't grow up playing, and I like it because I'm competing with myself.
Yeah.
Even though I might be with a mate or a friend, really it comes back to just doing better than I did last time.
Yeah.
And it's also a way to be out in nature. I
Yeah.
find that it helps reset, and typically you're not allowed to have a phone on a golf course. So that's also good.
Okay.
No one can get a hold of you. So
That's
there is I do answer it if my wife calls, but for the most part,
smart,
it's
man.
on do not disturb. And yourself, do you do any sport? Are you a swimmer or?
Oh, no, I tried. I had lessons as a kid,
Mm,
but I was one of those kids that just the coordination wasn't there. The arms and legs just it, yeah, they'd all be
yeah.
going, and I wouldn't be progressing through the water. So,
Mm,
and I lived, we lived a long way from the pool. It was always, yeah.
mm,
I walk a lot. We didn't have a car
yeah.
growing up, so I've always been a walker. So,
Beautiful.
and that's one thing with the lockdown. At least we've been able to get out and walk. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so sort of keep up a bit of fitness that way.
Mm,
Um, and just it'll be good when things when we get back to a bit of new normal and we can walk in a variety of places. But
100%.
yeah, yeah.
How
Um,
are you managing it? I mean, your schedule, has it changed? Has it
we've been
focused you more?
we've been busy.
Mm,
When things first hit, business fell off the edge of a cliff. The government then provided a lot of financial support to people who had lost their jobs, etc. So a lot of people who had always thought, "Oh, I wanted to write a book," they did, and we benefited
awesome.
from that. Yeah,
That's good for business.
look, it was, and I think too a lot of people realised that they could spend that money. I've got another client. He said, you can spend 10,000 laying on a beach in the South Pacific, and you've got the memories, and the kids will throw the photos out when you die, or you can spend
Mm,
that 10,000 on a book, which will last for however long, it'll last long after
yeah.
you've gone. So I think a lot of people have sort of been thinking not necessarily specifically along those lines, but they've realised that they want to leave their mark, and now's their chance. So it's been
Mm,
good for us, and we've been refining systems over the last year because we've had the work to do it, and with new technology like this, like you were saying that you worked with Zoom. We're talking today via Zencaster. Just the different technologies that we've got,
mm,
that in the last 12 months our processes have changed, and we're refining. So it's been good for us in that respect.
beautiful.
Um, and I think that's a lot of it too. The resilience to I've noticed the people who seem to not have coped as well. They don't seem to be as resilient or adaptable. Have you found
Mm.
that?
Yeah, I think agility has been one of the needs during this pandemic, and the companies that have survived, where it wasn't cash dependent,
Yeah,
have really taken that heart to never waste a crisis. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, and so it allows for some tougher conversation decisions to be made. And the companies that have embraced resiliency and agility and been able to adapt have actually thrived.
yeah,
It's been a mixed bag. So
yeah,
companies like yourself, where people are realizing there are these services, there are these opportunities to
yeah,
make a mark. They're
yeah,
taking advantage of it, and I think the companies that weren't afraid,
yeah.
that didn't, they stepped back for a moment, but then they engaged, are the ones that are actually doing well during these
Yeah,
times.
yeah. I read something years ago during the Depression. I think it was. I think it was Kellogg's. Do you have Kellogg's over there? Kellogg's, the cereal manufacturer.
Oh yeah, Frosted
Yeah,
Flakes, 100%.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think what I read was that Kellogg's didn't stop advertising during the Depression. So when the
Mm,
Depression was over, they were the number one cereal brand. So
mm,
they actually, during the course of the Depression, went from almost being unknown or just one of the smaller brands to being the brand. Um,
mm.
that's another one for the fact checkers, because I'm relying on memory of something I was told or read 10
Sure.
years ago. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I
Mm,
feel for the businesses who couldn't sidestep, who have been affected by all this, and the
mm.
really small businesses, coffee shops, things like that, they're really suffering.
Yeah.
But hopefully there'll be other things for them, coming soon, and they'll get back on their feet, and hopefully
Well,
it's
there'll be a
can.
need for those businesses again, and I
Yeah,
think that if people aren't afraid to
yeah,
risk again and back themselves,
yeah,
they can do well.
yeah.
So,
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing a hairdresser again. I can tell you that.
I
The
can
lockdown here is
imagine.
just
Yeah.
The
I
clippers
didn't get a
nearly came.
haircut for 5 months, and for OCD person like me, it was crazy. So when I finally went, I had it trimmed. It was like winning something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's something as simple as a haircut. Who would have thought? You know.
I know, I know. Isn't that good? Isn't that good that we can appreciate something as simple as a haircut? That's
Mm.
yeah. But what you said about nature too, I think we all need to get out in nature more. Just looking at
Oh
the
yeah.
butterflies, the plants, the ants on the ground.
Mm.
You get back in touch with that stuff
Yeah.
that
And,
that
and
grounds you.
and and that's another gift I think of the pandemic is it slowed people down.
Yeah,
I think we've lived at such a crazy rate of speed. At least I've seen in my clients that the whole working from home phenomenon, the fact that it's doable, I mean, I think it dispelled a lot of myths.
yeah,
And that work's actually been a place where people can find structure and productivity in a day. And it's been life giving and hasn't been a burden, a four letter word, so to speak.
yeah,
I realize not everybody loves what they do, but the benefit, I think, of accomplishing something and achieving something in times of uncertainty is unbelievable
yeah,
for the psyche and for us. So it's a good thing.
yeah, yeah. It is. That's a very positive note.
Hmm.
I, th- I think we might wrap it up there.
Beautiful. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jenny. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Great to meet you. Great to hear your ideas. And
Hmm.
I promise I will have a go at that journaling.
Okay.
Maybe not tomorrow, but I'll let you know how
Okay.
I go.
Brilliant.
All
Brilliant.
right.
Thanks again and
Thank
have a
you.
great day.
You
Cheers.
too. Cheers.
You've been listening to an IndieMosh interview with Steve Knox. If you'd like to learn more about Steve or check out some of his books, then visit indiemosh.com.au or search for his books at your favourite online retailer. I'm Jenny Mosher. Thanks for listening.